Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading a Muichiro Tokito by me, so let's get into it. The forest was eerily silent as you stumbled through the underbrush, clutching your side where the blade had struck. The blood seeped through your fingers, warm and sticky, staining your clothes and the ground beneath you. Each step felt heavier than the last, and your vision blurred. But you forced yourself to keep moving. You needed to find Muichiro. The attack had been sudden, the figure's face obscured by shadows. You hadn't even seen their blade until it was too late. They had said nothing before disappearing into the woods, leaving you bleeding and alone. The pain was unbearable, but the thought of Muichiro coming to you gave you strength. You believed he would find you. He always did. And then, perhaps as if summoned by your desperation, you heard his voice calling out to you. At first you thought you imagined it, but then you heard him again, and the relief washed over you. As slowly, his figure appeared through the trees, his steel eyes wide with panic. He was by your side in an instant, his hands steady as they gripped your shoulders. What happened? He demanded, his voice filled with urgency. Someone came and stabbed me, and then they ran. You murmured, your knees giving out, and he caught you before you hit the ground, lowering you gently. His eyes darted to your wound, his jaw tightening as he pressed his hands against it to stop the bleeding. I'm so sorry. I should have been there, he said, his tone wavering between worry and frustration. It's all right. Not your fault, you said, barely even able to talk through the pain. Stop talking, he whispered, his voice regaining its usual calm, though you could see the storm brewing in his gaze. Save your strength. I'm here now. I knew you'd be. He managed a faint smile despite the agony, and his expression softened for a moment, but the worry never left his eyes. Of course I'd come. I'll always come for you, he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. And as he worked to stop the bleeding, his movements were precise, but urgent, his hands shaking ever so slightly. Who did this? Did you see them? He asked, his gaze briefly flicking to the forest around you, and you shook your head. No, they were fast. His jaw clenched, and for a moment, his eyes darkened with anger. But then, his focus returned to you, his hands applying more pressure to the wound. I'll find them, he said, his tone ice cold. But right now I need to get you to safety. You nodded weakly, trusting him completely. He slid one arm under your knees and the other around your back, lifting you effortlessly despite your protests. Muichiro, Don't be ridiculous. You're hurt, and I'm not leaving you to walk or be here on your own. He interrupted, his voice leaving no room for argument, and his words silenced you as you rested your head against his shoulder, letting the steady rhythm of his movements calm you. Despite the pain, his presence was comforting, a steady anchor in the chaos. And as he carried you through the forest, he spoke softly to reassure you. You'll be all right. Just hold on a little longer. You tried to respond, but your eyelids grew heavy, and the darkness at the edges of your vision began to creep in. Muichiro, he whispered, your voice fading. Stay awake. Don't you dare close your eyes. Alright, look at me. He said, his grip on you tightening, and you forced your eyes open, meeting his intense gaze. I'm trying. You're strong. Stronger than this. You'll get through it. The determination in his voice and the sheer belief in you, it all gave you strength, and you nodded faintly, clinging to his words. I'll try. And when you finally reached the edge of the village, Muichiro shouted for help, his voice carrying a rare urgency. Villagers rushed forward, their faces filled with alarm as they took you from his arms into the care of the local healer. And Muichiro stayed by your side the entire time, his presence unwavering as the healer worked to clean and bandage your wound, his hand never leaving yours, his grip firm and grounding. And when the healer finally stepped back and declared you stable, he let out a breath that he didn't realize he'd been holding. He leaned forward, resting his sword against yours. You scared me. Don't ever do that again. You managed a small smile, your fingers weakly curling around his. I'll try, but you know me. He let out a soft chuckle, though the worry in his eyes had not entirely faded. You're truly impossible sometimes. And you're my hero. Thank you, Muichiro. He pressed a gentle kiss to your forehead, his voice firm and steady. Always. You're everything to me. And as you drifted back into a much-needed rest, you knew that no matter what dangers lay ahead, he'd always be there to protect you from them.